did you actually meet to get together?
Jim was in a band called Black Moses, but I was familiar. He didn't know me at that point, but I was familiar with him because I knew his band before that, Hypnotics, and I used to live with the bassist in the Hypnotics. And I thought Black Moses were really good, and I was promoting shows in London at the time, so I approached Jim about putting his band on, which I did, and it worked really successfully, and that's how we got to know each other.
Rick was the only sort of promoter that was like really interesting in London. You know, there was stuff going on, there always is in town, you know, and the same here probably in Manchester. But when you kind of look out for like what's really interesting that's going on, it was the stuff that he was doing, and he was bringing over artists from Mississippi, you know, people like Honey Boy Edwards. This guy's sort of like in his mid-90s, and he was there when Robert Johnson was murdered, you know, and sort of like he's a proper, you know, Delta Blues guy, yeah, and T Model Ford, and you know, like
Steve, very early on,
was like the first
heavy trash.
So a lot of these gigs that were like, wow, that's sort of like an honour to watch that kind of stuff, you know. He was promoting that stuff, and so I sort of wanted to be involved with that. And we would sort of sit around, you know, like we do a sound check like we just have now, and then you've got like, okay, when are we on? Another 6 hours. So you sit around just shooting the shit. And we would always keep coming back to sort of like who would be really great to see, you know. And I always had this, imagine like Little Richard, and we would talk about, imagine this sort of fantasy gig of going back to the Dewdrop Inn in New Orleans, mid-50s, and seeing this gay black man coming out and screaming about sex and wanting to fuck your daughter, but he's actually looking at your son, you know. What an image that must have been at that time.
I mean, that's total punk rock, isn't it?
Really racist time as well, New Orleans,
yeah.
you know, in the South. Yeah. And just sort of like a galvanising sort of like idea and image. And then you listen to the way that he puts the blood and guts into the performance. It's sort of like, fucking Little Richard is the shit, you know.
And meanwhile, while we're having this conversation, you know, outside of the stuff that we were doing together, you go to shows and they'd be really insipid and boring and uninspired, and you have like kids just staring at their feet, like, you know, wearing jeans and t-shirts, you know what I mean? I was thinking, why the fuck can't they be like the Ramones or something like that, do you know what I mean? Or why aren't they like Little Richard? So there was this kind of backdrop of kind of, you know, mediocre indie bands that we kind of just thought, well, there has to be something better than this, you know?
New album,
Burning Your House Down, produced by Jim Sclavunos, pronounced Sclavunos.
Yeah. Well, we didn't know how to say it either, and it was just like this kind of embarrassed couple of days where we were all going not getting there. And then he's come out, because he's always come out with his rock and roll stories. He was talking about Alex Church, who he's worked with for a number of times. We called him the Voo. And then once you get that, you got it. It's Sclavunos. So it's like, yeah. But
how was it about the comedy?
Brilliant, great, fantastic.
You happy with it?
Yeah, wicked.
He's just the right person for the job. He'd been to a few of our gigs, and you know, we'd got to know him, and he was always there with advice about this or that, you know. And when we started talking about it's time to do the next album, and we want to keep the energy of the first album and just that raw kick in the face element to it, but you know, we need a bit more depth. You know, we need some bottom end, and we really admired the first Grinderman album, and obviously the plays on it, and we'd like, you know, that sounds great, you know, we want, and he would go, well, if you work in this kind of studio and we get the segregated sounds and we can do this, this and this, and he kind of was just the right person for the job even before the job was there. thing hard work, and you really do have to commit yourself to get the juice out of it, you know. So that's something, sort of one of the lessons really learned of you know, being in music, is that like what you put in is what comes out, and you have to really show that you sort of committed, and then the spirit of the thing reveals itself and goes, okay, and you start to hear it coming back. But so it's hard work to do that, but at the same time the chemistry's just really fits with this band. It just really works, you know. Got all these very slightly different, disparate elements coming together, and but all with a similar goal in mind, and it kind of, you know, it's got its own speed. And the first time we played together was really like getting on board a runaway train. It's sort of like, oh, you know, it really took off. Way more than we expected. I mean, every aspect of what we've done in this band since we started has exceeded our expectations, and it's continuing to just go up and up and up. We're just really just hanging on, you know.
Something I personally found quite interesting about doing this record is that when we record live. I mean, that's how we did the first record, it's how we did this one, but obviously it's a bit more sophisticated with this one. But with this record, we kind of set ourselves the task of creating an album that you start at the beginning and you go through to the end. And if you want to choose to download tracks here and there, you can do. Obviously, that's cool. But it was quite interesting to actually record an album as a set of songs that need to be listened together, which I found quite a fascinating creative process. Whatever, you know, if that's how people want to get hold of music. It's a bit annoying when they don't pay for it, you know. Things everyone else, you know, it'd be called robbery elsewhere, but if it's music, people just think, oh, it's fine. But you know, other than that, whatever, you know, that's the way it goes. We're not Luddites, you know. We may play music that's inspired from the 50s or whatever, but that doesn't mean we're not going to use new technology.
It's the same attitude for us in the recording process as well. You know, if Pro Tools is going to help us achieve something that just a straightforward analog can't, you know, we're open to using it. We're open to both, you know. We're not sort of like, oh, you know, you're wearing jeans that were made after the 50s. I mean, some people are so elitist about stuff that they just box themselves into a corner, and there's nowhere else for them to go except, you know,
like if your biggest issue in the day, right, is how measure your turn-ups on your you know, vintage 501s or whatever. Then I think you've probably got a few issues you need to deal with.
What's the plan for the future?
Touring. Yeah, but I mean, we're going out to Australia over the New Year, which is going to be fun for Big Day Out. We're going to come back. I think we're going to do a few tours to Spain and Ireland. Then we're going to come back to the UK again, which we're looking forward to. Go out to the States, I think, in March for South by Southwest, and then do all the festivals around the summer. Pardon?
How did you go down the States?
Really well, actually. We were really curious and wondering what it was going to be like, because essentially we play music that's inspired by American artists, so it's a little bit like taking Coles to Newcastle going back there. But yeah, we went really well. I mean, the first time we went over was in March for South by Southwest, and we did about 6 shows, and they all were incredibly well received. You know, our actual showcase was just like stepping into a parallel sort of like existence of rock and roll, because all our heroes were there. People like Sylvain Cheetah Chrome from the New York punk scene, Bob Bruin, and they all dug it amazingly, and we were just like, oh my god. So yeah, we thought they was going to go, get the fuck back on the next plane out of it, you're taking the piss, do you know what I mean? But they got it, and they really liked it.
Alright, good luck for the tour.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks a lot.
Cool. Thanks a lot, man.
Cheers, mate. Done? Yeah.
So, should we get a cat to run?
Let's go, Harry, mine. Good luck for tonight as well.